Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, today we're cranking it up and diving into the history of a real cornerstone of German heavy metal, Accept.
Yeah, absolutely. We're talking about a band that's, right up there with the giants like Priest and Maiden in terms of influence.
So our mission here is basically to figure out, what made Accept so important and why they still resonate today.
For sure. I mean, think about their sound, that raw power, those really distinctive vocals, and those riffs. Just relentless machine gun style riffs.
Okay, so let's rewind. They actually started way back in 1968, believe it or not, in Solingen, Germany.
Right, we're just kind of usually known for knife making, right?
Yeah, exactly. And they weren't even called Accept then. They were Band X.
Mm-hmm. But the one constant, the guy who's always been there steering the ship, is guitarist Wolf Hoffman. Incredible player.
Definitely. Then in 76, they become Accept. That's when things sort of start properly. Yeah.
That's the name we all know. And you really can't talk about classic Accept without talking about Udo Dirkschneider.
Oh, absolutely. The original vocalist. I mean, physically short, but just massive charisma, And that voice.
That sandpaper voice, as people call it. So raw, so powerful. He was just crucial for getting them noticed early on.
So their first few albums, they put out their self-titled debut in 79.
Yeah, a solid start, but then things really picked up with Breaker in 81, and then Restless and Wild in 82. That one was key.
Okay, Restless and Wild. We have to talk about Fast as a Shark.
Oh, yeah. That track.
I mean, people argue it might be one of the very first speed metal tracks ever. It was just furious.
Totally. Super fast, aggressive, the double bass drumming. It really pushed things forward for metal at the time, a real landmark.
But then came 83, and Balls to the Wall.
Balls to the Wall. That was the explosion, wasn't it? Just massive.
Seismic is a good word. The title track, the album cover, it just became iconic. It really put them on the map globally. Huge anti-establishment vibe, too.
Right. And they kept that momentum going through the mid-'80s. You had Metal Heart in 85.
Loved the classical bits in that one.
Yeah, very cool touch. Then Russian Roulette in 86. Eat the Heat in 89. They were really solidifying their sound, their place in the metal world.
But like it often happens, things got complicated internally.
Conflicts arose, and eventually Udo left to form his own band, UDO.
Which was also pretty successful, to be fair.
Oh, yeah. But Accept tried carrying on with a new singer, David Reese on Eat the Heat.
And, well, the reaction was mixed, right? For a lot of fans, Udo was Accept. That chemistry was gone.
Exactly. It just wasn't quite the same vibe for many, so, then came the breakups, the reunions. The usual rock band roller coaster.
But then, fast forward to 2009, they reunite again, but this time with a completely different singer, Mark Tornillo.
Yeah, from TT Quick. I think a lot of us were maybe a bit skeptical replacing that voice.
Totally understandable. But then they dropped Blood of the Nations in 2010.
And, wow, it actually sounded like Accept. Like classic Accept, but fresh. It was a huge, pleasant surprise for a lot of people.
It really was. And they haven't stopped since, really. Tornillo's been fronting them for, over a decade now?
Yeah. Consistently putting out strong albums. You've got Stalingrad, Blind Rage, The Rise of Chaos, Too Mean to Die.
And they still bring that energy, that signature sound. It's impressive.
So when you boil it all down, Accept's legacy is really about just pure, uncompromising heavy metal. They stick to their guns.
Exactly. They never really chased trends, did they? They just did their thing, and they've managed to keep sounding relevant and powerful.
It's that German steel thing you hear about. Listening to Accept. It's not just music. It feels like metal itself, that core power.
Well said. So maybe here's something to think about as we wrap up. How can a band change something as fundamental as their lead singer, yet still fundamentally sound like themselves? What does that actually tell us about where the true identity, the sonic DNA of a band really lies?
Good question. Something to chew on.
Definitely. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.